Hello, 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 and welcome to day 2 of our double header for Miss Hope's Reading Hour. It is Fabulous FRI-YAY! It's Friday. Oh, can you believe it? We have made it through another week. It is Friday. Here in Philadelphia, we had half days, of course. So we had a half day yesterday because of the snow. And then today, because today is our regular half day schedule. So our students had a very nice week this week. 2 half days. They were like, so are we getting out early today? And I'm like, yeah, we usually get out early on Fridays. So hopefully your Friday has already been fabulous, that you're already relaxing and chilling out, hanging out with your family or your friends, or just by yourself, getting some peace and quiet. And of course, spending time with us here on Miss Hope's Reading Hour, right? So glad that you are here. If you paid attention to the teaser and you hear our ambiance music in the background, today I was feeling like, I know it's winter and it's supposed to snow in the winter, but it's been snowing a lot and I miss outside. I miss being out in the grass and going to the park and walking around without feeling cold. So I said, today let's talk about have some books that are more like in warm weather, okay? So we are still celebrating Black History Month. Happy Black History Month, everybody. Happy Black History Month. Because remember, Black History Month is for everybody. It is not just African American History Month, because it's everybody's history. It's important to everybody. Black history, Asian American history, everybody's history is important. So it's all of our history. You know why? Because we can learn something from one another. That's the reason why. Hello, I'm so happy that you are here. I'm so sorry. So on StreamYard, sometimes we cannot see who it is, like on Facebook sometimes and YouTube sometimes, but Facebook especially, like who is saying hello. But whoever you are, I'm so happy that you are here. Everyone that is viewing, I'm so happy that you are here to enjoy the great books with us. Let's get the disclaimer out of the way. So the wonderful Caribbean music that you hear and the great books that we are going to read today. Unfortunately, Miss Hope and Miss Hope's Reading Hour do not own the rights to any of it, but guess what? They are here for your listening and reading enjoyment. Okay? So we've gotten that out of the way. Next thing to get out of the way, our fair ticker down here that will give you all the information that you need in order to donate to the Miss Hope's Reading Hour Library. I wish I could pick this box up, okay? Because right next to me in a chair is another box of some more books. And I'm excited, okay? I'm excited. So, even though we are getting more books, let me tell you, the shipment that came before this one, we are already down to we're already down to 5 books, okay, from the last shipment that I got, because we are reading these things every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Thursday and Friday, like we did this week. So we are always needing more books. So if in your heart you want to donate, please feel free to donate via Cash App or to send a digital gift card to the email address, or email me and let me know. I want to send you some books myself, and we can talk about how you can do that, okay? Now, let us get to the books, because our last book, of course, that's the chapter book. We got to get to the end of this today. So let me just talk about this one now. Okay, who stole New Year's Eve? We got to find out who did it and why and how they did it. We just got to find it out. The last 3 chapters today, we got to find it out. So let's get to our first 2 books. Our first book is called Emmanuel's Dream. The true story of Emmanuel Ofosu Yeboah. Emmanuel's Dream by Laurie Ann Thompson and Sean Qualls. And look up here, one of those fair medals. This one won the Schneider Family Book Award. Emmanuel's Dream. And I have a special dedication with this book, okay? When we get to it, I'll let you know. Also, this one is called Buzzing with Questions. The Inquisitive Mind of Charles Henry Turner. Buzzing with Questions. This book is by Janice N. Harrington, illustrated by Theodore Taylor III. And this is a Calkins Creek book. So these will be the first 2 books that we will read today. And of course, we're going to get to the end of Who Stole New Year's Eve. Going to get to the bottom of it. Okay? Now, both of our first books have dust jackets. And looky. It looks the same underneath. All right, our first book, Emmanuel's Dream. The true story of Emmanuel Ofosu Yeboah. Let's see who the publisher is. And this is a Random House book. A Schwartz and Wade Books book. It's an imprint of Random House. Excuse me. Emmanuel's Dream. In Ghana, West Africa, a baby boy was born. 2 bright eyes blinked in the light. 2 healthy lungs let out a powerful cry. 2 tiny fists opened and closed. But only 1 strong leg kicked. Most people thought he would be useless, or worse, a curse. His father left, never to return, but his mother had faith. Her name was Comfort, and she named her first child Emmanuel, meaning God with us. As Emmanuel grew, Mama Comfort told him he could have anything, but he would have to get it for himself. He learned to crawl and hop, to fetch water and climb coconut trees. He even shined shoes to make money. Most kids with disabilities couldn't go to school. Still, Emmanuel's mother carried him there until one day she said, "You are too heavy." From then on, Emmanuel hopped to school and back, 2 miles each way, on 1 leg by himself. Wow. At first, nobody would play with him, So Emmanuel saved his money and bought something none of his classmates had: a brand new soccer ball. Of course, he would share it if he could play too. Lunging and spinning on crutches, his grandmother had found for him, and kicking the ball with his good left foot, Emmanuel earned their respect. You can play soccer better than me. His new friends sometimes used their lunch money to rent bikes. Would Emmanuel be able to join them? His friend Godwin pushed him fast so he could balance. Over and over again, Emmanuel fell hard, but finally he rode. When Emmanuel was 13, Mama Comfort got very sick. She could no longer sell vegetables at the market, and Emmanuel's sister and brother were too little to work. He would have to support them. Against his mother's wishes, Emmanuel snuck out and boarded a midnight train to the bustling city of Accra, 150 miles away, alone. He didn't know it then, but it would be 2 years before he saw his family again. Wow. Emmanuel arrived full of hope. There were so many people, but no one would hire him. Shopkeepers and restaurant owners told him to go out and beg like other disabled people did. Emmanuel refused. Finally, a food stand owner offered him a job and a place to live. Oop, I lost the page. When Emmanuel wasn't serving drinks, he kept busy shining shoes. He earned money and sent it home. One morning, when Emmanuel went to buy shoe shining supplies, the shopkeeper thought he was there to beg and scolded him. Insulted, Emmanuel slammed his money down on the counter. The shopkeeper apologized, but Emmanuel would never forget. When Mama Comfort grew sicker, Emmanuel went home to be with her. From her bed on Christmas Eve, she told her son, "Be respectful, take care of your family, don't ever beg, and don't give up." By the next morning, Emmanuel's beloved mother had died. He was heartbroken, but he knew her last words had been a gift. He would honor them by showing everyone that being disabled doesn't mean being unable. It was a big dream, but Emmanuel had a plan. Emmanuel had a sharp mind, a bold heart, and one strong leg. At first, no one would help. They thought his plan to bicycle around Ghana was impossible. Then Emmanuel wrote to the Challenged Athletes Foundation, all the way in San Diego, California. They sent him a bike, plus a helmet, shorts, socks, and gloves. Emmanuel started training for the long ride. He persuaded the king of his region to give him a royal blessing. He went door to door asking for additional support. Finally, he hired a taxi to follow him with drinking water, a camera, and his best friends. Then Emmanuel tied his right leg to the bike's frame, jammed his left foot into a flip-flop attached to the pedal, and rode. Wow, he had this all figured out. Emmanuel pedaled through the bustling city of Accra. He pedaled through the rainforest, over rolling hills, and across wide, muddy rivers. He pedaled past oudum forests and plantain farms and through the market city of Kumasi. He pedaled as trucks roared past on narrow highways and wild animals stalked his thoughts. He pedaled through vast grasslands and into the ancient city of Tamale. He rode up, down, across, and around his country, proudly wearing the colors of its flag on a shirt printed with the words "the Pozo," or the disabled person. Man, I can't imagine going through the rainforest on a bike. Along the way, Emmanuel talked to those with physical challenges and those without, to poor farm workers and wealthy landowners, to religious leaders, government officials, and reporters. He wanted everyone to see him and his disability. He wanted everyone to hear him and his message. The farther Emmanuel rode, the more attention he got. Children cheered. Able-bodied adults ran and rode along with him. People with disabilities left their homes and came outside, some for the very first time. The young man once thought of as cursed was becoming a national hero. He completed his astounding journey, pedaling south to the sea and back up to Accra, nearly 400 miles in just 10 days. But Emmanuel's success goes even farther than that. He proved that one leg is enough to do great things, and one person is enough to change the world. The end. Wow. Guess what, friends? Me and you just heard this story for the first time. We just shared in this together for the first time. Emmanuel's story is amazing. And this was not long ago. This was like in the early 2000s. This is a really amazing story. Now, remember, I said I had a special dedication with this book. So, for those of you who don't know, I work with children with disabilities, and many of them are brown children, just like Emmanuel. So, I want to dedicate this to all the children at Martha Washington School who are in our special education program. And I want to dedicate this to my nephew Thomas too. My nephew Thomas, he has Down syndrome, but he is amazing. He's done a lot of things that people never thought that he would do. So, just because you have some type of challenge, this book teaches you that there is nothing that you can't do. Great story, Emmanuel's Dream. I'm so glad we shared in that today. I never heard that story before. All right, to our next book, Buzzing with Questions. The Inquisitive Mind of Charles Henry Turner by Janice N. Harrington. Oh, and look at here. This one also looks like the dust jacket. All right. Oh, I love opening brand new books. So, a quote from Charles Henry Turner: "The study of biology trains the powers of observation." Let's learn about him. This is another one we will be sharing in together for the first time. I have never heard Charles Henry Turner's story. We're both going to hear it together. Questions that itched like mosquito bites. Questions that tickled like spider webs. Questions you just couldn't shoo away. Questions hopped through Charles Henry Turner's mind like grasshoppers. His brain buzzed with questions about plants and animals and bugs. His parents' home swarmed with books, but never enough books to answer all of his questions. Charles Henry Turner asked so many questions that his teachers urged him to go and find out. And Charles did. Very inquisitive child. I was inquisitive too. He read and studied and worked hard. And after he finished high school, he did what many people thought impossible. Even though he was a janitor's son, even though most colleges didn't accept African American students, even though it meant more hard work, Charles Henry Turner went to college. In the biology class, Charles met the magnetic young teacher, Clarence L. Henrick. Henrick's classes hummed with energy. Students chatting, students examining the organs of small animals, and students staring one-eyed through microscopes. On Friday afternoons, Henrick invited students to his laboratory for spirited talks about biology. He spread tablecloths over the long laboratory tables and set out sweet cakes and cups of tea. But Henrick worried about inviting Charles Henry Turner. He worried that the other students wouldn't want to drink tea with his only brown-skinned student. To Henrick's delight, the other students wanted Charles to join them. They liked the shy, quiet student who always earned high grades, the hard-working Charles Henry Turner. Charles was indefatigable. Big word, a classmate said. He spent hours peering through microscopes, planning experiments, gathering specimens, keeping records, drawing charts, and reading scientific papers in French and German. But whatever the language, he never stopped asking questions. Whew. Pretty busy, huh? One question led Charles to a small, eight-legged, eight-eyed, two-fanged creature, the spider. Charles wanted to know if spiders could learn or if they were only weaving machines that made the same web over and over. Charles searched for spider webs. He trudged through meadows, inspected stone walls, and scouted the sides of railroad tracks. He toppled wood piles, lingered over logs, and peeked into dusty corners. Charles found webs, lots of them. He even spotted double webs that looked, he wrote, as if the spider were trying to fish with two lines instead of one. Whew, he is brave. I do not like spiders. All the kinds of spiders and all kinds of webs caught Charles's attention, even a web between a windowsill and a wall. What would the spider do, Charles wondered, if he swept away its web? With a broom, Charles brushed away the web, not knowing it was part of a science experiment. The unexpected spider rebuilt its web. Sweep away, rebuild. Sweep away, rebuild. After losing its web for the fifth time, the spider gave up and wove a new home underneath the windowsill. He's like, come on, man, you gotta leave my stuff alone. But Charles didn't give up. He repeated the experiment in an arachnarium, a spider jar. He filled the bottom of the jar with sand and pushed a post into the sand. Then he added a spider. He slipped a paper triangle into the jar and watched the spider. Later, he removed the paper triangle, replaced it with an L-shaped tube, and watched again. With each change, the spider rewove and reshaped its web. Charles concluded that instinct told spiders to make their webs, but that each spider wove a web just right for its home. Charles called this intelligent action. Spiders were not just weaving machines. The indefatigable, scientists then wondered about even smaller animals. In scummy ponds and weedy ditches, he searched for tiny crustaceans. He found seed shrimp, water fleas, and wheel animals. Through his microscope, he admired their small bodies. They were beautiful and translucent, and some looked like nests of test tubes. Charles even discovered a new crustacean and named it Cypris henrici, after his friend and teacher, Clarence L. Henrick. Look at those amazing animals. They're usually really tiny. But Charles wouldn't stop asking questions. At 39, he returned to school. He wanted to learn. He wanted to ask big questions about another creature, the ant. Charles wondered how ants found their way home. Did ants have a hidden power in their brains that pulled them to their nests? Did the sun guide them? Did they follow a trail of smells? Wow, those are some interesting questions. Searching for answers over the next 5 years, the indefatigable scientists studied acrobat ants, big-headed ants, false honey ants, and odorous house ants, all kinds of ants. To tell one ant from another, Charles marked their abdomens with watercolors. He built an obstacle course with cardboard stages, cardboard rooms, and cardboard ramps. Ants crawled all over the stages. Ants scurried over the ramps. Ants tap, tap, tap the cardboard with their antennas. Ants searched for their nests, but Charles didn't help them. Instead, he moved the ramps to unexpected places. He angled the ramps up and slanted them down. He painted ramps different colors. He shifted the light and the direction of the light. He smeared stinky oils over the cardboard paths. He caused his ants trouble. But by watching ants find new ways to reach their nests, Charles learned how they solved problems. Wow, for 5 years to study ants. Charles drew a map with squiggly lines and arrows to show the wandering path of a lost ant. A French scientist called the wanderings Tournements de Turner, or Turner's Circling, in honor of Charles Henry Turner, the scientist who taught us that ants were not mindless robots. Each ant used sight, sound, touch, smell, the movement of its body, and sunlight to find its way home. Wow, that is super interesting. Who knew? Like the ants, Charles now searched for a new home. He found work as a biology teacher at the first African American high school west of the Mississippi, Summer High School in St. Louis. Excited to be their new teacher, students filled their lab books with notes about his class. One student wrote that Charles set out dishes of jam for bees at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The bees circled and buzzed at each meal. But then when Charles set out jam only at breakfast, the bees still invited themselves to lunch and dinner. Surprised, the students learned that even bees sense time. Questions kept circling and buzzing in Charles's mind. In a St. Louis park, the scientists placed red cardboard circles in a patch of clover that swarmed with bees. He coated the circles with honey, but then he waited. The bees weren't interested in his circles. They weren't even drawn to the smell of honey. But good scientists are patient, so Charles tried again. Ooh, wait a minute. He caught bees in a bottle and toppled them over the honey. At first, the bees buzzed away, but eventually they settled on the cardboard to enjoy a sip of honey. Once the bees learned that the red circles carried honey, Charles replaced the red circles with honey-filled blue circles. The bees ignored them. Whether he used circles or cones or boxes or added new colors, the bees kept flying to the color red, even when another color held lots of honey. In 32 different experiences, no matter how Charles tried to trick them, the bees chose the color red. Charles Henry Turner was the first biologist to prove scientifically that bees could see color. Wow, that's a fascinating experiment. Bees, giant water bugs, whirligig beetles, dragonfly nymphs, water striders, paper wasps, hornets, and tent caterpillars. Charles studied them all. He taught cockroaches to find their way through a maze, proving that they could learn. He triggered moths to beat their wings whenever they heard a whistle, just like Pavlov, a Russian scientist who trained dogs to drool whenever they heard a bell. He frightened doodlebugs, ant lions, which made them lie still. With a magnifying glass, he studied how they moved and trapped their food, how ant lions grew, and everything else that ant lions do. Charles learned so much that he became the world's first doodlebug expert. Patiently, he watched 1,000 caterpillars crawl slowly up a vertical maze, learning slowly, that caterpillars find their way by trial and error. Charles Henry Turner was indefatigable. His mazes, spider jars, paper circles, and cardboard stages toppled old ideas about insects. He never stopped inventing new ways to study the smallest creatures, searching for new ideas or asking new questions. Questions that itched like mosquito bites, questions that tickled like spider webs, questions that only a good experiment could shoo away. As hardworking as the ants and bees he studied, Charles published over 50 scientific papers on everything from bird brains to the bathroom habits of cockroaches to blind crayfish to the growth of grape leaves. He was a pioneer scientist of animal behavior and an internationally admired entomologist and one of the leading African American scientists of his time. Wow. Whew. He did a lot. But even though he was a respected scientist, Charles faced racial prejudice. He lived in the South, where African Americans had to attend separate schools and where they could rarely vote. He lived in St. Louis during the terrible East St. Louis riot, when hateful mobs killed more than 100 African Americans and burned their neighborhoods. Yet, despite this prejudice, Charles wove himself into his community. He raised money for poor families and led a settlement house that sold lunches to hungry children for only a penny. He worked with white and black people to make St. Louis a better place for everybody. Biology, the study of plants and animals, gave Charles hope. He wrote that biology could help people to see the connections among all living things. Biology taught us to think less about ourselves and more about others. Charles Henry Turner, the boy who never stopped asking questions, grew into the tireless reader who owned 1,000 books. He was the good friend always willing to help other scientists by offering ideas, helping with research, or sharing his equipment. If my micro camera proves a success, I shall be glad for you to use it whenever you desire. Charles Henry Turner, the boy who never stopped asking questions, grew into the determined biologist who would stay up all night to watch a spider or spend all day observing wasps beside a railroad track. I shall take my camera along and get a few photographs. His curiosity danced from experiment to experiment. It moved in Turner's circles, in Tournaments de Turner, always exploring, always reaching to discover new ideas. Charles Henry Turner, the boy whose teacher urged him to go and find out, grew into a teacher himself, a devoted scholar who taught students to look closely, to find the webs that connect us all, and just as he did, to fill the world with questions, questions, questions. The end. Wow. And this is a picture of Charles Henry Turner. Whoa, his life was amazing. I'm not a friend of insects. Of course, I like butterflies because they're pretty. But other insects, not so much. But the story of Charles Henry Turner is super interesting. I'm so glad I was able to share this first time learning about this with you. We learned something new together today. And a very important lesson that this teaches is that there's a web that connects all of us, no matter what your race or where you live. Learning about the animal kingdom can teach us a lot about us too. Very good book, science teachers, my science teacher friends.